What's going on, Fighter Share Nation? Hey, it's a special day. I'm not gonna steal the shine. I'm gonna throw it to my partner, the Badger over here, and he's gonna let y'all know why this day is so special.
Hey, Fighter Share Nation, man, we got a dope guest today. For y'all that don't know, the one and only, the founder of BSO, Black Sports Online. He also does some work with TMZ. He's a friend of mine, which now makes him a friend of this guy, and hopefully a friend of the show. Fighter Share Nation, give it up for brother Rob Little.
Okay. All right. So, growing up in St. Louis, inner city, like a lot of inner cities throughout the country, very insulated type of family structure, friend structure. Unfortunately, a lot of drugs, a lot of violence, a lot of, stuff, but, happy as well because, it's like a family, atmosphere. And I had, a grandmother who had a lot of respect in the neighborhood. So, she let them know, don't mess with, my grandson. I had a mom and others that an aunt that was like, you can go to college, you can do whatever you want to do, and everything. The only thing I would say the only bad thing, not even a bad thing, it's just kind of what happens is, when you're in those neighborhoods, you don't get to see anything outside of the neighborhood. You know what I mean? So you don't really experience, you don't realize there's like a whole big world, out there. Like I didn't leave the state of Missouri until I went to college in Ohio. I was 18 years old the first time I got on a plane to even know like, hey, there's different parts of this country, there's different cultures that's out there. So one of the best things about it is that I feel like I got very grounded in, where I come from, very humbled from where I come from, but I was lucky enough to be able to experience things outside of Missouri that kind of made me a bit more well-rounded, of a person.
So, was it your major in college that got you into media?
Well, here's the thing. It's. I know it sounds strange, especially like from a young child. Most kids, and I was just like most kids. I want to play football, basketball, be a rapper, and all of that stuff. But I also, like at 6, 7, 8 years old, I had a real fascination with sports media. I think what it was that I was an only child. So when you're an only child, a lot of times you have to entertain yourself because you don't have brothers and sisters to play around with. So I remember like school would be out in the summer, right? And you had your friends that was kind of in the neighborhood, but for a lot of times you just at home watching TV. And I just watch sports. I watch Sports Center. Like, they used to have like 10 sports centers on
Yep,
throughout the day.
back to
You
backs.
wake up, watch, yeah, like they used to, ESPN didn't used to have as much coverage as
Mm-mm.
they do
No.
now with the sports. So I would watch Sports Center, and Sports Center back then, they would talk about car racing and tennis and golf. And I watch Stuart Scott
Yes.
and Keith Olbermann and all, Chris Berman and all those
Yeah.
guys. And I got a
Carl
real
Ravitch, all the
interest.
old guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I got a real interest at that point. I said, hey, if, quote unquote, if my NBA career, my football career, my quote unquote rap career didn't work out, like I wanted to be a sports journalist. I wanted to be on TV. So I had an interest, a real strong interest in learning about sports at a young age and then watching, these guys on television. I said, that's a cool thing that I would want to do. So yeah. So when I went off to college, that's what I majored in. I majored in journalism, but it was actually to be like a TV anchor. Like I wanted to be the news sports guy that you saw at 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock. That was my ideal goal with a hope like, maybe one day I can make it to an ESPN. But eventually I just wanted to go to somebody's city and be the sports guy in that city.
Wow. Nice.
Now, with that being said, that segues perfectly into what I want to talk about. You're from St. Louis, rich fighting history. This show, The
Mhm.
Beatdown, use it combat sports. You are a media personality. You cover combat sports. What is your take on the state of black fighters right now, whether it be MMA or boxing? Do you feel like we have a level playing field with the others?
It's interesting. I've talked about this a lot, and it's a little disturbing to me. But I'm hoping that it's slightly changing. For whatever reason, at some point, to be a popular, financially stable, or a financially profitable black fighter, you had to be the villain. You had to be the bad guy. You had to be the heel of it, and that's how they would promote the fights. I don't know if it necessarily starts with like Floyd Mayweather, but you can even go back to Muhammad Ali.
Correct.
He wasn't always the beloved Muhammad Ali. A lot of times it was he had, it was they hated him, and that's why that actually built up his brand. And we've seen that permeate to the fact that like really, really good fighters who are just like nice guys, don't really cross over as much as the Mexican fighters or the international fighters or things like that. The state right now, I would say, is better. Which are I think the guys like the Earl Spencers and the Sean Porters of the world who are just good guys, but are also getting on pay per view and showing enough levels to this. But I still feel like there's that we need you to act like a fool. We need you to act like Adrian Broner for you to get the money that you want, for you to get the fights that you want, to get the pay-per-view buys that you want. And that's something that we simply do not see with other nationalities. Like Canelo never talks, but he's the pay-per-view star. The British guys don't really have to have a personality, and they still make tons of money. It's only the black fighters at times seems like they have to be kind of love and hip hop-ish to actually get the attention of the fans. Now I don't know if that's actually a problem with all fans. Specifically, what I mean by that is Mexican fans support Mexican fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Period. They don't need anything else. Right? They support them. Whereas sometimes black fans will only support certain fighters if they have kind of like that edge to them or that negative tone to them. Like should Tank Davis, because he getting that support because he's dating all of these girls that were on Love and Hip Hop, or is it because he's a fighter? Like I just wish that we had, as a black community, we just supported fighters who are good fighters without having all the drama behind
Well, they support him because he's from Baltimore. But I
it.
digress. Um,
He is from Baltimore, so he's a homer. So and that's his resentment on Ohio State. He's a Penn State guy, so that hurt his feelings when he showed up at the show. Though,
oh
just so you
man.
know.
I'm glad you went into that. As far as black fighters, how they're perceived and received. Now, what are your thoughts on the trilogy with Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and the media?
Yeah, see, that's another, I guess, big issue in boxing is that boxing media, and I talk about this because I cover all different sports and fighting sports media in general, UFC, MMA, boxing, is totally different than NBA, MLB, NFL type of media, which is very structured, very, I would say, the majority is white, like 90% white males and everything. Boxing media is really driven by shows like you guys and YouTube reporters and things like those are the ones that are really driving the sport. Now the problem with that, it's good. It's a catch-22. I think that's good because it allows people who don't maybe necessarily have the media hookups or don't have the right skin complexion to get in the media to actually cover a sport. I think the bad part of it does it gives a lot of people a voice that maybe don't know what the hell that they're talking about a lot of times, and people will listen, to them. And I think that was the problem with the Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury stuff is that it got a lot of more into opinions and speculation and conspiracy theories than actual, reporting. And it got a lot more into, if you don't support him, you're not black. If you don't support Tyson Fury, you're racist. Like, it got into a totally different genre of reporting, which I think is not great for the sport. I wish Wilder, because there's no shame in taking an L, would have just, said, hey, I took my L, I'm going to come back and I'm going to knock you out. And I think that could possibly have happened. I think he should have handled it a lot like Anthony Joshua handled his loss to Ruiz. Is that, sometimes you just take an L. And if you're young enough, you just come back, you avenge your L, and people respect you more for that. I think we have to get out of this perception that everybody has to be undefeated. The greatest fighters of all time, sans Floyd Mayweather, have a lot of them have a lot more than 5 losses. but nobody thinks any differently of Muhammad Ali or Oscar De La Hoya or any of these guys because they took L's, Bernard Hopkins or Roy Jones or anything like that. So I think you could get a little delusional with your, I'm superhuman and nobody can defeat me. But I didn't like the way that reporting went down because it became something that really wasn't. I made boxing look good, from both parties.
Now, here's another interesting question I got you. I'm gonna just pivot over to the left here. You cover all sports. I see you do some stuff for MMA. Now we know the
Mm-hmm.
UFC has a different policy when it comes to who their fighters can talk to and how people are credentialed. Mm-hmm. Do you think that we're getting any representation at all in that media space in regards to the UFC?
The problem with UFC is that it's a dictatorship. It's Dana White, and here's the thing: like if in the NFL, for example, if for whatever reason, let's say somebody got blackballed, a black media person got blackballed, they can't handle the PR issue with that. If that person was to go public and say, "Hey, they said I couldn't do this because I'm black," and da 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 da, so they have to walk a fine line with that. With the UFC, there's really no repercussions for them, and so it becomes very interesting because then if you start writing negatively about them or you're just being honest about whatever's going on in their organization, they can blackball you and there's no consequence to that. I mean, they tried to do that to the guy at ESPN, Ariel, or whatever his name is, and he's a big, Hawaii. I don't want to mispronounce his name. That's why I didn't say it. But that's why when you have one, basically, Dana White is Donald Trump, right? So, how Trump gets mad, he just fires people or he throws them under the bus and he can't really do anything at the moment because he's the president. That's how Dana White is. It's like if you say something bad about Dana White, if you talk about, hey, why don't you promote your black fighters the same way you promote these, like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has like assaults and all type of stuff on his record, and he still, he gets promoted to the moon. John Jones has some issues, same type of thing, and you always talking bad about him. Whereas the consistency, you talk about stuff like that, all of a sudden you can find yourself not being able to cover, the fight. So they have an advantage in the fact that with a dictatorship, they can put on better fights because you're not dealing with multiple promoters. But you also have to deal with the fact that if you're honest about the UFC, you're dealing with someone that's a MAGA Donald Trump supporter and you're African American, there's going to be issues, with that.
Wow. Now, I'm going to pivot a little bit because we also know that you're affiliated with TMZ. I've always wondered, have you all ever had something too crazy to show on TMZ?
Yeah, I mean they turn down stuff all the time. Some stuff that you wouldn't believe. I mean, you got to remember the guy that owns TMZ, Harvey, is a lawyer.
Yeah.
He started off at the People's Court. Remember, he used to be outside the People's
Yes.
Court doing interviews. I don't know if he still does that from time to time.
Yes, that's him. Yeah.
That's him. He outside a long time ago. He started with that, and he's an actual lawyer. And he, came over TMZ. I don't know, maybe 15, 16 years ago. But so he knows the fine line between we can put this stuff out there, we can't put other stuff out there. So when people say why, people always say, well, they talk about deaths or whatever. They're like, why don't they sue TMZ? Like, trust me, it's covered. Like beyond Harvey, they have a legal team. They're double checking and triple checking. That's why they rarely get stuff wrong. But yeah, they people call tips in all the time of a lot of crazy stuff that you don't see on their website. And we kind of do the same thing at BSO. Like I get I have a really easy line. Everybody has a line that they won't cross. And my thing has always been this: if it's public or someone is talking public, I'll write about it. If it's private and it's not illegal, and somebody come to me with it, I won't write about it. And the example I always give is this: if a girl is on Instagram saying somebody cheated on her or an athlete cheated on her and did this, and she's showing text messages, that's for the whole world to see. That's public. So it's not me putting it out there is not violating anybody's privacy because the person already put it out there and thousands of people have already seen it. Now that's different than a girl emailing me saying here are naked pictures of X athlete. Here's this of X athlete. Here's text messages showing that he's cheating on his wife. She's sending those to me personally, and they're not public. I'm not going to post that because, hey, look, it's bad if you're cheating and doing all this stuff, but it's not illegal. It's not, it's not a crime, and it is not public. So I'm not out here just trying to publicly embarrass anybody because obviously I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me, either. So that's my line that I won't cross.
Okay.
So coming from St. Louis, now your residency is in Los Angeles, California. What's it like going from the Midwest to the West Coast?
Well, it was all about opportunity. St. Louis is a nice city, but especially after the Rams left, though, there's nothing there. Like the baseball team's there, the hockey team is there, but there's really, for what I was trying to do with the brand, it just wasn't a lot of opportunities for me, and it was getting pretty expensive to keep flying out to places that I wanted to, cover events. So, and what was happening, this was what was happening a lot. I was, in St. Louis, and I get an email on a Wednesday saying, hey, can you cover this world premiere, or can you cover this fight, or can you cover this, or can you interview this celebrity? But we're doing it on Friday. You know what I mean? So, a lot of that was happening, and, I didn't have the flexibility to just be like, if I get hit up on Wednesday to fly out, on a Thursday and get there on Friday, like I it just became a thing where I had so many opportunities, but most of the opportunities were out here on the West Coast that it made more sense for me to move out here and be located. Now, granted, I didn't know the coronavirus was going to come, but before then, it expanded my, opportunities. I go to more fights now because obviously I'm only a 3-hour drive or a 45-minute flight from Vegas. There's a lot of stuff that obviously happens in Los Angeles. You're closer to Texas and all this other stuff. So it was more of a business, move. And I'm not gonna lie, the weather is a lot better here. It's December 17th. It's 70 degrees outside. I'm very happy about that.
You don't miss the snow?
I never liked the snow. I know people like snow and like to take pictures, but I always tell people the pictures that you see on social media of the snow is when the snow first hit, right? It's all nice and stuff. What they don't show you is, and this is bad, I'm just going through my memory of having to actually go to work, like a job, a 9 to 5. Yeah. They don't show you that next day when you got to go out there at 8 in the morning, scrape the ice off your car, shovel the snow out your driveway. All the snow is dirty and muddy, and your wheel, you got your hoopty, and your wheels don't got no tread on it. Your car's sliding around, and you trying to get to work without being late because they're gonna write you up. See, they don't tell you that story about the snow. They tell you, all you see is, look at the white snow, it's so pretty. No, they don't tell you having to put 9 layers of a t-shirt, a sweater, a hoodie, a jacket, the scully, the earmuffs, the gloves, and you get in your house and your hands are all frozen. Now I'm good. It's nice and sunny out. You see how bright my camera is? That's not a camera light. That's the light from the window.
Nice.
There you go. Okay. Flex on it.
But now, you being from St. Louis, you got 3 of my favorite rappers from that same town. Of course, everybody knows about Nelly, but you also got Flame and Thistle.
I
haven't heard that. Are you familiar with those two?
I have, yeah. I was in the St. Louis rap scene when the St. Louis rap scene blew up. Because it's a small, it's a major city, but it's like a mid-major city. So it's small, especially in the city. So all of the rap groups back then knew each other. So the Nellies and the Ching, what's the name? Chingy and all the 1 to the 2 to the 3 and the 4.
Oh, Jaquan.
All of those rap groups. And probably a whole bunch more that didn't, blow up like myself. Were all in that same. When we were coming up, we all rapped at the same places. We all freestyled at the same places. We all went to the same clubs. We all tried to get the same, opportunities and stuff like that. It just happened that a couple got out and some didn't get in, or some you probably don't even know about had like a little single here and there, but it didn't blow up. So had that. Well, I guess that was probably the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, so I remember all of those, guys, because we were around all of them. That's why it was funny to me. This is a true story. So when Nelly came out, I had played baseball against Nelly because he was a good baseball player in high school. And he was, I think he was like a year or two, older than me, maybe a year. We were like all around the same age. And I remember when he came out, and I think at that time I was like 22, 23 or something like that, around that age, 24, somewhere around there. And they were like, yeah, new artist Nelly, 19 years old. I'm like, Nelly's 25. but he's got 25, 26 years old. But at that time in hip hop, they wanted to de-age you. The young, like people had a perception that if you're an old person in hip hop, you for whatever reason didn't sell to like because the young fans, the young girls or whatever. So they aged him down in like 1920 because they felt like his fan base, he can get those 15, 16, 17 year olds. But he was damn near 30 by when he was blowing up, but they were still saying he was 21, 22.
That boy sound like Mike Lowry then. How old are you, boy? I'm 16, so damn near 30. That's who you sound like just then. Listen, we know you're up against it. I have one last question for you myself before my partner gives you his last question. Very simple. Who are your favorite fighters right now, black favorite fighters right now, boxing and MMA currently?
Well, let's see. Actually, my favorite fighter is not a black fighter. It's the Japanese guy anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, he's cold.
I like anyway. But I like a big Earl Spence fan. I like Sean Porter. I like all those welterweights. I like Keith Thurman. I like Danny Garcia, Bud Crawford. But I also like some of these up and coming guys, Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, the Berlanga guy. Oh
Yes.
man, Berlanga, yeah, he just got on my radar. The Berlanga guy. There's a kid, Elvis Rodriguez, that's coming up. That's really good. So in the UFC, they kind of they've gotten away from the black fights. Who I like my favorite fighter in the UFC? Amanda Nunes. I think she's better than I'd rather watch her fight than all of the dudes.
Yes. And the Badger is familiar with Amanda Nunes, but refuses to get in the ring with her, the octagon with her. He refuses to, and I'm trying to get people to coax him into it. I think that would be a great charity event because he wants Mike Tyson, but only in a BJJ match.
Oh, I see. I see.
But he won't get in with Amanda Nunes.
You got to take your wins where you can get them, Rob. That's all.
I got one last question for you, sir.
Yeah.
And I know you were up against it. Just because of how much you follow boxing, we had a discussion a while back about the NCAA discussions about them sanctioning boxing again, which they haven't done since the 60s. Do you think that would benefit young fighters, or do you think that would be more of a hindrance to their development?
That's a good question. I do think, especially black athletes in high school and in college, they play basketball, they play football, some play baseball, run track or whatever. They don't have the training for boxing. And that's why a lot of the boxers that we see now, there used to be other athletes that got put on the boxing by something else. Like the good thing, like here's the thing in LA, I tell this about all the time, is like there's boxing gyms all over. That's the first thing that I noticed. One of the first things I noticed when I moved here. So if you're a little Mexican kid out here, you can walk into there's a boxing gym somewhere near you. But in St. Louis, if you were a kid and you wanted to box, I don't know where you would go. I don't know where the boxing gyms were there. And I lived there, damn near 25 years of my life. So I do think possibly having it in college gives people that maybe aren't as athletic to play the sports that they think that black kids should play, but they can, play by, we see it with Deontay Wilder and others. Like sometimes you're not destined to play these other sports, but boxing is something that you never know if you have a talent until you actually, do it. So to answer your question, now that I think about it, just kind of talking out loud to myself to it, I think it would be a good idea because it would give kids another outlet, as long as it's done safely, because it's nothing normal about getting punched in the face, punched in the ribs, punched in the jaw, punched in the head over and over again. So it's not like they always say, you don't play boxing. So as long as it's done safely, I would be for it.
Well, we're up against it. We usually have a game we play called Five Punches, or 5 rounds,
Give
one
me the five
punch.
punches. I got some time. Give me 5 punches.
Okay, five rounds, one punch. So the first thing comes to your mind, you give us an answer for it. Okay?
All right, let's do it.
All right. Shrimp and grits or chicken and waffles?
Chicken and waffles.
Ah,
Chicken and waffles.
ah.
Okay.
Love me some
Um,
chicken and waffles.
Spicy barbecued sauce or mustard bake?
Ah, spicy barbecue sauce. I put barbecue sauce on everything. I
Okay.
put it on spaghetti. You won't hear that often.
No, I'm with you on that.
Wow.
Two-party system or one-party system in politics?
Oh, we definitely need to go to a one party system. Like it's ridiculous. Like here's the thing: we have 3 parties now. Honestly, we have Democrats, we have Republicans, and then we have those Trump people. I consider them a totally different party because they out of their mind. That's like the KKK party. That's a totally different party.
Okay. Can a black person in America be considered a racist?
To not to white people, but to other races. Does that make sense? Like we can't be racist to white people because they brought us over here against our will, and they keep being racist towards us. But like we haven't, like the Asians haven't done anything to us, so you can be racist to an Asian. So if you go into like a Chinese restaurant and start mocking them, yeah, you can be racist towards them. You know what I mean? So you can be racist toward a Mexican. The Mexican people ain't did nothing to us. Mexico hasn't done anything to us. So if you go in and start, talking about Cheech Chong and stuff like that, yeah. So you can be black people can be racist to other races. You can't be racist to white people because they're the majority and they're the ones that started all of this. So nobody can be like nobody can really be racist to white people because they're the baseline. They're the top. You know what I'm saying? So they're the ones that started all of this. They caused the whole problem. If they would have left everybody alone, we wouldn't have to deal with it. But we can be racist to other races.
All right.
Okay.
And finally, since you're a new father, do you want your child to remember you more by your witness or for what you've told them?
Mm. Ah, that's a good one. I would say I would want them just to remember what we've done. Like, I don't remember what my mom and dad ever told me, but I do remember things that they did, for me. So I think that's the most important thing for any kid is not just talk, it's actions. And if you set a good example, not that you're perfect, but if you set a good example for your kid, I think when your kid is out there in the world, that's gonna help them, like if I I would say this, when I see kids or the people that I grew up with, how they act now, it's definitely how their parents acted when we were kids. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I'm not saying that in a good way, unfortunately. Some of the parents acted a certain way, and now I go back home and their kids, 40 years later, are acting the same way that their parents did 20 years ago. And it's a repetitive cycle. So, as Black people, I think to get out of that repetitive cycle, to break a cycle, we have to show them kids a better way.
All right. Appreciate it. I had another one on the table, but I'll wait. Hopefully, we can get you back
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
here.
Anytime.
Badger?
No, man, listen, thanks for joining us, brother. We will be in contact. For y'all that misintroduction, Mr. Robert from BSO, man. Thank you for your time, brother. We will be chatting up with you soon.
And congratulations again, man.
Thank you. You guys be safe. Let me know when it comes out and everything. I'll be sure to promote it on all of the spaces and everything.
Right
Appreciate
on.
you.
All right.
All right, Fighter Share Nation. All right, Fighter Share Nation. Hey, that was Mr. Rob Little. And
Yes, sir.
man, that was a wonderful interview he gave us, man. Good job,
Yeah,
big
man. I
guy.
like and listen, man. I like the way Rob kept it. See,
Oh
we have a
yeah.
way of loosening you up when you come on this show. At first, he didn't know what to expect,
Yeah.
but then when he got us, he opened right up. That's what it's all about. But more importantly, man, it's about networking, man, and and giving people their props while he still can. I've been watching this brother from afar for a few years. I've known about the platform for a long time, but just to see where he's come now and how he's transitioning, whatever his partnership is with TMZ and what they got going on and how he's platformed that and something else, you got to give the brothers kudos for that, man. So for me, it was just an honor to have him on.
Yes, it was. Hey, sometimes things happen in life and you're like, this has never happened before. The sun shining in through the crease and the blinds. Not where I could turn it and adjust it, but through the
I see
crease.
it. I see it.
I'm
I
like,
see it.
this has never happened before.
You can't make this stuff up, bro. You can't make this stuff up.
Listen, we'd like to thank y'all for joining us. This has been a great interview. He said he'd love to come back. We'd love to have him back. Um, Listen, I want to give a shout out to Fighter Share Nation. Um, Thank you all for coming over and watching us on YouTube. We still sending our reminders out to our Facebook friends and family and Fighter Share Nation on Facebook. But thank you all for coming and joining us here on YouTube. This will be our home for the time being. And thank the Badger for, reaching out and getting Rob on here. Look, I'm a better man for having that interview, bro.
Nah, man, bump all that. We are a team, and you've done more for this platform and this show than I can ever do. So, with that being said, we will see y'all tomorrow again with our hair down on our more or less refined show where he can actually be himself because he's acting real stiff because we had Rob on here. So that won't happen. So, with that being said, we will see y'all, man. Hey, it's holiday season. Send a little shout out to your people. Let them know you love them. Tap in with them. We will holler at y'all. Peace.
Hey, and be careful where you place that mistletoe.